All right, well now we're gonna start the pump removal process. The flag is in right now, locking the pump down. We're gonna pull the flag back out because when we break this nut loose, we don't want any fear of shearing this plastic flag pin that's in the motor locking it. So it's out. So now then we'll get a nut, remove this. So here we are. We're fixing to break this bad boy down.
There's the nut.
Make sure you run in the right direction. All right, go. It did move just ever so slightly, like a half a degree. Before we break it loose, you'll see how the flag still lines up. According to the dial indicator, it's moved a degree and a half. I don't think it's gonna go in.
Right in.
Okay. That's clearly on
I'll put the cap
3.
on now.
Clearly on 3. All right, I'll buy that. Matter of fact, the jar might have moved the dial indicator.
Easily.
Yes, that's great. We'll
pull her out. How it looks.
Why don't you get a big crescent wrench and put on this block too? It ain't gonna move, but if it moves a tad, it's gonna break loose. No, he's putting this crescent wrench on there just to hold it. Matter of fact, you might be better off to put one hand on this, one hand on that, and you pull against yourself. There you go. That's
wow,
it.
it was not very tight
hard.
at all.
It was not hard.
It was not hard.
So, as you can see, this tapered fit and this tapered cone right here is what, how that thing's timed. So you can actually time this anywhere because there's no keyway to line it up. It's all friction fit. This thing, before we time it back, we'll clean this with acetone or alcohol. Make sure it's really, really dry. Make sure that's really, really dry.
It's got to be completely dry.
Completely for this to adhere to the shaft, even with that center nut tight. So that's it. So now we're ready to unbolt the pump and set it to one side, and we're all good. We're going to remove the fuel lines. I've already removed the fuel supply on the back, right back here. This is the fuel return, and it goes back, and it would have typically gone back to the tank. We've already moved the bolts. This fitting here goes down the block, picks up the oil gallery. This is the oil supply for the pump to keep it lubricated. So we're gonna remove those lines now. All right, cool. All right, so we're gonna remove these. We always just make a habit of trying to save the seals.
Yes.
Screw it back in the pump.
Right there.
9/16. That's one thing about these motors. They have a mismatch of fitting sizes. Seems like line sizes for some reason are SAE. Most everything else is metric. All right, that's got the oil line loose.
Typically you have a bolt here that's holding to the bracket right here in this hole, and you have another one. You can see it's still there. It's right there, and you got to remove those two to remove it from this bracket connected to the block. There it goes. Got it. That should be the only bracket bolts we have to worry about. Now all we gotta do is to remove the ones holding the pump on. Now then, very carefully, it should just come right off of there.
That's a good place to set it.
It's wiggling. Ah, there she is. Oh, she's heavy.
Set it right there.
Now we got the pump off. Take the power steering pump off. Now you got a good view. I'll show you right here. See right here, this is the bracket that was holding the back support of the pump.
Without that, the pump will break this cover.
That's right.
Yeah.
And right here is that, that's that pin. You can pull it
Cam
in.
pin.
You can see. Actually, that one broke. That one ain't doing much good, but typically it would have a nub on there that would go right into the cam and lock it.
Yeah, that's been broke too.
Yeah, it has to be.
Removing parts off the donor motor for the permanent install engine. We've been pulling the cam out today. Timing cover removal, because all these parts will be needed for the other engine. All right, we're moving the cam retainer bolt. All right, so let's tip the motor up. The point of turning the motor over or upside down is getting the lifters up to the top.
I think it's blocked. We'll put them under this corner.
Actually, with the oil pan being off, it makes it much easier. You can look at the lifters here. Most of them are all the way up. Let me get something. The lifters, point of the lifters, so that the lobes don't drag on them. That's where everybody, does the wooden dial pin trick to hold these lifters in the up position. We're able to cheat a little bit by being able to turn the motor in this position. Also, by turning it vertical, the cam's able to come straight out, and it's easier. It doesn't drag on the lobes as it comes out and scratch up the surface, the bearing surfaces where it runs the block.
So you hear? You see?
All the lifters, as you can see, they're all up. We don't have to clamp them or anything because of the position that the engine's in. And the cam will pull just pretty much straight out. I'm gonna prise it up to get my fingers underneath it.
Anything I need to do?
I don't think so.
There's a retainer just come off.
You might look right there, see if you see what.
Come this way.
There we go. Here it comes. This should be much simpler than what this is.
Yeah, I just fed it through that hole in the block.
Line me up another one.
Can't reach it now without turning the engine.
Can you come right here and get this? Let me have that. There we go. There we go. There we go. Perfect. That was actually harder than I anticipated. It should have been even simpler to come out than that. But it's out. We didn't bang or beat around on anything, so
Cam looks pretty
we're all
good too.
good. Also, so you'll note, this cam gear is a press fit on the end of this cam. It presses on into position, and it's best not to pull them on and off, because each time you do it, the integrity of the press fit's a little less than it was before. So that's it. Cam's out. We're in position now where we're relatively easy to pull the cam cover. This pin right here is the killer dial pin. That you hear so much about. It actually works its way out, falls in the gears and breaks gears and timing cover, excuse me. But I think typically these pins are below this surface of the timing cover. And I'm going to show you how much further it would typically be. So I think I can
Punch it a little bit. Oh, it moved.
see that is below flush now. It was definitely working its way out, and you hear the sound. Hang on, I'm gonna put it in there one more time. That's a solid lick. The pin's all the way to the bottom. But before it had, through the miles and wear and tear on this motor, it had worked its way out. This bolt here would typically hold a teardrop shaped piece of metal that's fabricated by 5'9" engine owners to hold that pin in. And we will certainly do that if this motor is rebuilt, or if we, when we put this cover on the other motor, we'll put a plate over it so that keep that from happening. I'm going to remove the timing cover.
Okay. I'll wipe those off. They're kind of icky.
More than icky.
There's a dowel pin down there for sure.
Oil pan gasket been reluctant to let go too. There it is.
Beautiful.
That's the piece we need. I'm gonna pull the lifters out of the block just so they don't fall out if we turn it over. There they are. If everything goes well, they should pull right out. There's that one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Well, let's see if I can rotate the. Well, maybe I don't have to. Let's see if I. Yeah. Let me get the easy ones first. There's that one. That one.
Magnet's pretty good.
Yes, a new acquisition. That's pretty decent shape magnet. All right, we need to rotate the block a little bit.
Might do. I think I'm good.
Yeah, this motor turns excellent. Now that we got that melted piston out of it. There's that. All these bores too were standard. The bearings were standard. It just had a bad day. Alright, they actually, machine shop can regrind these to surface these, but these absolutely, they don't even have a wear mark on them. They look great, and you saw how easy they pulled out of the block. This dimension here is a 12 valve dimension. It's somewhat smaller than the 24 valve, and if you was putting a Hamilton cam in this motor, you would need to change to the 24 valve lifter, which has a wider base on it, and they has a little more surface on the lobe, and therefore, because the surface a little, they actually talk about it increases the duration ever so slightly. I'd say it's insignificant, but Hamilton requires you to change the 12 valve lifter to the 24 valve lifter that has a bigger head on it. But if you're just staying with a 24 valve stock cam, these, if necessary, can be reground and made new, but I wouldn't do anything to these. They look perfect to me. That's good enough till we get ready to commit enough time to it to do the swap over stuff. We got a lot of stuff to do in the meantime.